Welcome to Kermode Uncut. I've been thinking about Jaws a lot recently because, as you probably know, Jaws is celebrating its 40th anniversary this month. 40 years ago, Jaws opened across like 464 cinemas in the US and became the box office phenomenon that apparently invented the summer blockbuster. And I was doing some research for an article I was writing, and I went back and looked at, there's a very good BBC documentary called In the Teeth of Jaws, which has got some great interviews with key members of the production. And I was reading some articles at the time, and I also went back to an interview I did with Steven Spielberg for the Culture Show back in 2006, in which Spielberg said something which has been said elsewhere. It was this: when they were making Jaws, they built a rubber shark because the film needs a shark. And the shark consistently didn't work. It was called Bruce. There was 3 of them. All 3 of them, when you put them in the water, had problems. And because the shark didn't work, Spielberg had to work round it. He had to take a more Hitchcockian approach. He had to rely on John Williams and the score to provide the shark. He had to do suggestion. He was very keen to stress the fact that actually this had worked in his favour. In fact, he said, who knows, if the shark had worked, the film may have been half as scary and taken half as much money. And I completely agree with that, and it's now kind of passed into modern folklore that the making of Jaws was the fact that you really don't see the shark very much.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
But I would just like, very briefly, to fly the flag for special effects, in particular, plastic special effects. See, I saw Jaws when I was 12 and it scared the life out of me, but I'm glad I saw the shark. I mean, yes, all the Hitchcockian suggestion was terrific, but I wanted to see the shark. And I love the sequences at the end when the shark is up there on the boat and you're really seeing the shark. And I was reminded of Clive Barker, great horror author and film director, saying, I've got no time for those monster movies from the 1950s when, you know, in the first hour you see a foot of the monster and in the second hour you see a hand, and in the last shot you suddenly see it for 3 seconds before it's blown up by an atom bomb. You want to see the monster, at least when the monster is physical, pre-digital. And Barker was one of the interviews in a documentary I made way back called Fear in the Dark. And I asked him back then, do you think that the rise in special effects has in any way changed the face of horror cinema? Now, back then, the rise in special effects didn't mean digital technology. It meant stretchier forms of latex. It meant better mixed forms of polymethylcellulose. I mean, these were physical effects. And Barker said something which has stuck with me for many years. He was talking about Brian Yuzna's film, Society, which is incredibly scrungy and in which the special effects are right there on the screen. And Barker said this, he said, yeah, if the special effects are dictating the story, that is a case of the tail wagging the dog. But there is a matchless pleasure to be found in having a special effects guy walk up to you with a twinkle in his eye, which says, we found a new way of turning someone inside out, and we can do it for you in one shot, governor. As Barker said, that's a joy. And you know what? It is.